So, considering the importance of this antimicrobial resistance and the residues of antibiotics in various products, especially animal products, we started because there have been a lot of reports about antibiotic resistance in chicken, in meat, in pig, what is it, or in pig meat, what do you call swine meat. So we thought that why don't we assess the antibiotic resistance profiles from many of these chicken, industrial chicken houses that are going to be here. Have you ever heard of, have you ever seen a chicken farm? Any of you has seen a chicken farm, how chickens are actually grown?
Yes, sir.
So how fast does a chicken mature?
So after that egg, I think that hen will take 2, 3, 4 days for that chick.
For the chick, it'll take 21 days for the chick to emerge. It'll hatch out within somewhere around 21 to 24 days. And after the chick hatches out, at what stage does it become good enough for having its meat?
So I think after 2-3 months, means I'm not sure.
2-3 months, you're not sure. Okay. So we normally harvest it by somewhere around 3 months, somewhere around 12 weeks time. But under the natural conditions for the chicken to be coming to a size of somewhere around 2 to 2.5 kgs, it takes almost 6 months to 7 months to 8 months. But then we want to reduce this time span. We want to reduce this time span so that, what is it called? We have developed varieties of chicken that are going to be developing quickly at the same time, which is called as broiler chicken. You have heard of this term, broiler? So you have this broiler chicken that has actually bred for, and what is it called? Husbanded, animal husbanded for the meat purpose. And we actually get these chickens to maturity in almost 12 weeks. So we have reduced the span of development from 7 months to 8 months to less than 3 months. So we are actually making them gain weight at a very fast pace. We are actually making them to gain weight at a very fast pace. And one of the reasons for this is antibiotics. So in 1950s, it was found out, along with this time, in 1949 itself, it was found out, people started working, that serendipitously, it was found out that when animal feeds were spiked with these antibiotics, because when these, what is it called, streptomyces and penicillin were grown, I mean, actinomycetes were grown for the production of these antibiotics in mass cultures, because that is going to be coming in the broth. You are going to be having the main mat that is going to be there, that is going to be used as a waste product. So people use these waste products in animal feed. And serendipitously, it was discovered that when this waste product was added to animal feed, these animals developed quickly, they gained weight very quickly. So in 1960s, it became standardized that if you are going to be giving very low doses of antibiotics continuously to these farm animals, you can reduce this time span that the animals are going to be maturing in. Maturing in means, for me, maturity is going to be that they are going to be coming to size, as far as this lecture is concerned, that they are going to be coming to size so that they can be slaughtered for their meat. So what is naturally going to take 7 months, 8 months is now taking just about less than 3 months. So they are going to be, and they are being fed antibiotics at a very low rate, but continuously. Okay. So that is one of the main ingredients of present day modern, what is it called, animal husbandry, especially chicken husbandry, as well as swine husbandry. In the case of, what is it called, beef, we don't take much of beef. So it is going to be used to a lesser extent, but in buffalo husbandry also, it is not going to be used to a greater extent. But in other countries, especially in Western countries where cows and buffaloes are actually, what is it called, grown for the meat. So there also they are going to be supplementing their feed with low doses of antibiotics. So when these low doses of antibiotics are going to be provided to chickens, So we asked this question, whether there is going to be any of these antibiotic resistance bacteria in any of the chickens that are being grown in and around Delhi. Okay, so many of you would have visited these what is it called, chicken farms. At least you would have seen these chicken farms. Kaisa hota hai chicken farms, Shivani? Kabhi dekha hai? Sharda, Mallika, bahar se dekhe ho kya?
हाँ सर, बाहर से ही देखा है एंड टीवी पे देखा है. आई मीन
टीवी पे देखा है, बहुत अच्छा.
Transported, they look very
they look very shabby. They are
Yeah.
going to be maintained in a very bad place. What is it called? In a very unhygienic conditions. Okay. So these chickens are also going to be supplemented with many of these antibacterials that we had discussed earlier. You have beta-lactam antibiotics. You have got what is it called? Quinolone antibiotics. You have got macrolides. You have got tetracycline. So many of these antibiotics are going to be used. So as we had seen earlier, that you have these antibiotics that are going to be given to these animals, and this is going to be killing many of these, what is it called, bacterial cells. But then some of these cells are going to survive, and because they have got some genetic elements that are going to be helping in their survival, this is going to be multiplying, and this is going to be, what is it called, resistant bacteria. And these resistant bacteria are going to be, what is it called, spread from these animal products as well as food from these animal products. And this is going to be coming to human environment when we are going to be consuming them, either the products, if they are not properly cooked, and even if they are cooked, if the person who is going to be preparing this particular product is going to be what is it called, exposed to the raw food, and he is not going to be cleaning it properly, he and his family, she or her family, is going to be very badly exposed to these bacteria. And it has been found that farm laborers, farm helps, and people who are going to be in and around chicken farms have what is it called, increased proportions of antibiotic resistance bacteria in them when compared to people away from these farms. So it is not only confined to the poultry farm, it is going on to the people who are working in the poultry farm, and from them it is going to people in their family, and then it is going to be going to human households. So as we had seen that what is it called, global consumption of antibiotics is going to be very high, and at present the consumption of antibiotics for animal husbandry is maximum in China, followed by United States, Brazil, and India comes in the fourth number. Over a period of time, India is going to be coming to the third number. That is by 2030s, India is going to be coming third. Even though China is going to be reducing its, what is it called, consumption, Indian consumption is going to actually increase. The percentage increase of consumption is going to be very high in India when compared to other countries. Okay, so the amount of antibiotics used is going to be very high, especially in chicken. We are going to be using a lot of antibiotics in its production. And as we had seen earlier, as we had discussed earlier, antibiotic for therapeutic use, for prophylactic use is perfectly all right, because that is what they are intended for. But for growth promotion, that is what is an unintended, what is it called, use of this particular antibiotic. And this is what is actually driving the use of these antibiotics, wherein they are going to be used for growth promotion of farm animals. The exact mechanism by which these animals increase in size, gain in weight because of antibiotics has not been very clearly found. But it is also found in humans also, that when humans are exposed to antibiotics, they gain in weight very quickly. The exact mechanisms is still debatable. People are not very, what is it called, agreeing to one particular mechanism or a set of particular mechanism, but everybody knows that it helps in gaining weight, but the exact mechanism is not known. Okay, so we are going to be exposed to these antibiotics and antibiotic resistant bacteria from the food products, from the management and handling of these food farm animals, and also from the farm effluents. So these farm effluents are going to be coming to the environment. They are going to come to the water bodies. From these water bodies, there is every possibility that it might be coming to the humans. So it is not going to be confined only to the farm animals. It is going to be coming to humans also. Okay. So you have the reports of antibiotic resistant bacteria from poultry, from in different bacteria. You have from Salmonella typhi, you have from E. coli, you have got from Staphylococcus, you have got from swine farms, you have got from in the United States, from cattle farms, from India also, from poultry farms, people have reported both Staphylococcus aureus, Pastorella, as well as E. coli. And their genetic determinants were also used. So when you see the global use of antibiotics in for animal use or for animal husbandry use is almost 80% of the total antibiotic usage. So only 20% of antibiotic usage is actually used for the purpose for which antibiotics were identified and tested. 80% is going to be used for an unnecessary or unintended purpose of increasing the weight of farm animals. So we have used somewhere around 2,700 to 2,800 tons for food animal production in 2013, and this the farm animal or farm animal protein is going to be increasing by almost 67% by 2030. So we are going to be seeing a large increase of farm animal use of antibiotics in the next 10 to 15 years. Oh, abhi to 10 to 15 years bhi nahi hai. It is going to be 9 years. Okay. So there is going to be a huge number of what is it called, antibiotic resistance associated with these increased antibiotic usage also going to be coming. As I said earlier, we have somewhere around 56,000 deaths in the neonatal age group itself because of antibiotic resistance, antimicrobial resistance in India. And we are one of the highest consumers of antibiotics. So what we did was, we went and surveyed these chicken farms in and around Delhi. One site was Rampur in Uttar Pradesh, and another site was Sonipat in Haryana. So in each of these, so you have got two types of chicken farms. One where the farmer is going to be breeding these chicken for the meat purpose. These are known as broiler chickens. And the other where the farmer is going to be using this, what is it called, chicken, or the, what is it called, hen, for the purpose of egg laying. Okay. So you have, what is it called, broiler farms and layer farms. So we had selected these farms, and we had went there and we had taken these chicken cloacal swabs, and we isolated many of these bacteria, especially E. coli. So we confined our study to E. coli only. So we went to these chicken farms, collected the cloacal swabs, we brought these swabs to the laboratory, and we selected these E. coli, and then we conducted the antimicrobial or antibacterial assays on these, what is it called, isolated bacteria. So we found out that if you are seeing, this is a microbiological plate, and you are seeing that when we are placing these antibiotic discs that are going to be here, some of these bacteria, some of these discs have got a halo zone. Some of these discs have got a halo zone. So this halo zone actually indicates that the antibiotic here is able to inhibit the production or the growth of this particular bacteria. It is not able to grow in the vicinity of this particular disc because of the antibiotic's presence. Whereas this, in the vicinity of this particular disc, there is no effect and the bacteria is able to grow properly. So these bacteria will be considered as resistant bacteria, whereas these bacteria are going to be considered as susceptible bacteria towards this particular antibiotic. Getting my point, Sharada and Mallika and Shivani?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So you have a phenotypic assay by which we can find out whether these bacteria that have been isolated, we are subjecting them against 22 different antibiotics, different antibiotics, different classes of antibiotics also. And these antibiotics are going to be present in different concentrations in these discs. And we are going to see how much of resistance is going to be seen. After that, after this phenotypic analysis, we did the genotypic analysis also, because a lot of these antibiotic resistance genes are also known. So we tried to find out whether these bacteria which we have isolated from these cloacal swabs of these chicken, whether they are having any of these resistant mechanisms. or resistant determinants, as we call them. So the antibiotics that we chose was ampicillin, a very common antibiotic that we use, and you have this amoxicillin clavulanic acid. Use किए हो कभी? Augmentin सुने हो? Augmentin duo?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is this clavulanic acid amoxicillin one that we use. Then we use third generation, what is it called? Beta lactams like cefazolin, as well as ceftriaxone and azithromycin. So these were the beta lactam antibiotics that we selected. And we also selected these aminoglycoside, gentamicin, amikacin, and streptomycin. We used tetracycline, we used chloramphenicol, we used these quinolone, ciprofloxacin, norfloxacin, cotrimazole that we have tested. So when we see that tested, so all these antibiotics are going to be present in these discs, and these discs are going to be what is it called, screened against these against these bacteria that we isolated from these 6 farms. From these each of these farm from each of these 6 farm, we randomly selected something like 20 chickens, and from each chicken we isolated 3 E. coli strain. So we have 20 into 6, that is 120, 120 into 3, somewhere around 360. So we screened 360 strains for these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 different antibiotics. And we also tested these different antibiotic resistance genes in these resistant bacteria. Okay. So what you are going to see here is that this Na is nalidixic acid. Na is nalidixic acid. This is quinolone group of bacteria, which is going to be this norfloxacin, ciprofloxacin, and nalidixic acid. You can see here, norfloxacin, ciprofloxacin, and nalidixic acid are going to be the ones that have the maximum amount of resistance. You are going to be this, what is it called? Blue bars indicate broiler chicken, and brown bars indicate layer chicken. So we can say that nalidixic acid, norfloxacin, and ciprofloxacin are being widely used as what is it called, growth promotants in our chicken industry in and around what is it called, Delhi. Similarly, you have tetracycline, you have cotrimazole, you have C कौन सा हो गया? I'm not getting. What is C? Chloramphenicol, and you have cotrimazole, COT कहाँ पर है? COT नहीं है. You have cotrimazole, you have tetracycline, you have chloramphenicol, and you have ampicillin and amikacin also. So you have almost 30 to 40% resistance against these various classes of antibiotics. You have got almost a wide range of antibiotic resistance that is being seen. And if you see, almost in against nalidixic acid, ciprofloxacin, norfloxacin, you have what is it called, 70 to 90% resistance. In others, this brown bar here in this graph indicate intermediate resistance, and these are the susceptible ones. So the susceptibility is maximum in the new generation antibiotics. Let us say gentamicin, amikacin, and AT. AT कौन सा है? It is atrazonam. So you have this beta lactams, new generation beta lactams, which are very costly, and these are not being used as growth promotants. You have got other, what is it called, gentamicin, that is not being used as a growth promotant, and the proportion wherein you have got amikacin, AK, that is also going to be much less, and aminoglycoside antibiotic. So whereas the other antibiotics are being for the growth of these what is it called, chickens at a very fast rate. It is not that all the animals, all the farms were having almost statistically non-significant difference, wherein you have the percentage fraction graph of E. coli having multiple drug resistance. So you have got almost what is it called, extremely drug resistance, means out of these 14 antibiotics that we had screened for, each of these are going to be resistant. Each E. coli is going to be resistant to more than 4 antibiotics. So you have 70%, what is it called, E. coli isolates from this farm 1, which were resistant to more than 4 antibiotics, 90% in the case of farm 2, 60% in the case of farm 3, and that is how the proportion is. Whereas moderately resistance was much lesser, but susceptible, what is it called, the number of antibacterial isolates which were totally susceptible were very, very, very less. They numbered just about 2% of the 360 that is there. That is somewhere around 9 to 10 of the strains were not susceptible to any of these, were totally susceptible to any of these antibiotics. Okay? Similarly, when we tested for these antibiotic resistance genes, you have TET-A, which was giving resistance against tetracycline, and you have TET-C, again resistance to tetracycline. So TET-A was the main, what is it called, antibiotic resistance, what is it called, gene that was identified. So we can definitely be sure that tetracycline is being used in a great amount, and tetracycline is also showing almost 70% resistance in all these strains that we had screened for. Okay. You have the sulfa drug, SUL2, SUL3, where we are seeing they are being seen in almost 40% and 30% of the cases. And you're also going to see somewhere around in 37% of the cases, you had seen that norfloxacin, ciprofloxacin, nalidixic acid, wherein we had seen that they are almost 90% resistant. Yeah, dekha tha na? They are showing almost 90% resistance, and you have this QNRS. These are responsible for that. But then we were surprised that why QNRS is going to be present in only 30% to 35% of the strains, but almost 90% of the strains are going to be resistant against these antibiotics. So we tested the other genetic determinant, because the other genetic determinant that is going to be responsible for this is going to be, what is it called, this QRDR mutations in gyrase A and topoisomerase 4. So these are the enzymes that are responsible for DNA replication. So the, what is it called, target can get mutated. So we we amplified this particular product, gyrase A, from 18 different clones, and we found that in majority, 1, 2, 3, in almost 15 of these clones, you have this mutation that is going to be serine, which was in original position. This is the amino acid that is there, and this has been replaced with leucine. And it has been reported earlier from other parts of the world that this mutation, serine 83 leucine, what is it called, mutation, is one of the main reasons for resistance to these, what is it called, nalidixic acid and what is it called, ciprofloxacin and norfloxacin. So we are seeing the repeat of what is happening in other parts of the world here also, wherein people are using, the farmers are using what is called these antibiotics for what is it called, purposes for faster growth and higher weight gain, and this is resulting in multi-drug resistance. So you can see the isolates, the percentage of isolates which were resistant, and we had isolates which were resistant to 11 different antibiotics. We had isolates which were resistant to 11 different antibiotics. Each of these isolate was at least resistant to one of these antibiotics that we had studied. So the main, what is it called, the average number is somewhere around 5. 3 to 5 is the main number, but there were bacterial strains which were resistant to almost 11 different antibiotics. So multi-drug resistance is very common in many of these bacteria, and this bacteria that we had tested for was E. coli. And what is it called, mutations in the chromosome, wherein the gyrase A and topoisomerase were also mutated, that is also very common. So you have gyrase A, par C mutations that are very common. It is present in almost 11% of these bacteria. Graph showing number of isolates reported with mutations with gyrase A and par C. So par C is a plasmid-borne mutation. Probably you will not be, I don't know whether you remember about plasmids and their role. Do you remember about plasmids? Because you are all chemistry people. So plasmids are one of the ways by which what is it called, gene transfer happens within bacteria. So this PAR-C is what is it called, QNRS, sorry. QNRS is a plasmid bond resistant determinant. PAR-C and gyrase are chromosomal bond resistant determinant. And you have strains where gyrase and PAR-C are going to be present in almost 11 of them. And you have situations where gyrase and QNRS, PAR-C and QNRS, gyrase, PAR-C and QNRS, all the determinants are present together. So this is the reason for seeing such a high resistance in this nalidixic acid group. Okay, so we were able to correlate the presence of high resistance in nalidixic acid to the presence of these, what is it called, genetic determinants, or by the presence of these resistance genes, or that is also going to be widespread in all of this. So using antibiotics of growth promoting is a major public health problem. So we had just used this particular study to see whether this particular what is it called problem is present in areas in and around Delhi. So we have this problem, and this is going to be quite rampant. Shivani,
Yes,
you are
sir.
probably the only person who was taking chicken meat. So now you should be extra careful that you don't go and take meat, these chicken meat from any place outside. You get the chicken cooked properly in your particular home and then only take it. Okay.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
So it is very cheap, especially these antibiotics, which are the ones that we had seen: norfloxacin, ciprofloxacin, nalidixic acid, tetracycline, cotrimazole. These are much cheaper antibiotics, and these can be used as what is it called, growth promotants by these farmers. So this is going to be causing a major problem, because this quinolones are a very important class of antibiotics, and if we are not going to, if we are rendering these quinolones ineffective, then these are not going to be effective in controlling many of the human diseases. So that is where the problem lies. So though you are using this particular antibacterial agents for growth promoting, and because they are very easily available, they are going to be cheaply available, but it is going to be creating a major problem in clinical situations, wherein people, more and more people are going to be affected by antibiotic resistant bacteria, and we are going to be having major problems in treating these infections. And as we had seen, almost 60 to 70,000 children are being lost because of these antibiotic resistance. But this number is definitely less. It is not, we can expect that this number is going to be just about 1/10 at the maximum, and this is going to increase in a major way in the coming years. So we also found that newer generation antibiotics that are there, like cephalosporins, is not being used because the incidence of resistance is much lesser, because they are going to be highly costly. And there is a lot of multi-drug resistance. So the farmers are not just relying on one particular antibiotic, they are going to be relying on a mixture of these antibiotics. They are going to be relying on tetracycline, they are relying on quinolone, they are also relying on cotrimazole. These three are going to be much cheaper antibiotics. Some of them are relying on aminoglycosides also, but then what is it called, new generation antibiotics like cefazolin, ceftriaxone, azithromycin, these are not being used very much. These are not being used very much. Okay?
Yes,
So
sir.
this must be, the use of these antibiotics must be strongly discouraged, and we have a major policy, but the policy is also a very difficult policy to implement politically, because farmers, we know that the farmers are also, what is it called, we have this farmer protest for minimum support price, and if we are going to put a ban, even though technically there is a ban on the use of these antibiotics for non-clinical purposes, for both growth promoting purposes, but for it to be implemented properly, it needs a lot of, what is it called, governmental will, both state government as well as central government, and this is going to be a difficult task. So we have to really make people aware that antibiotic resistance is real, that people have to follow the doctor's advice and then only take the antibiotic. We should not be taking the antibiotics by self-medication. Second thing, we should see to it that farmers are informed that it is not only the produce that is important for them, it is the children who will be very badly affected. It is the near and dear who are going to be very badly affected by the abuse of these antibiotics, which they have to be educated about. And we have to be making a more number of such studies to find out how much of antibiotic resistance is actually present in and around our environment. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer.
Sir, just one small query.
Yeah.
So are these people able to access them? Like, I understand that we go to a medical shop and we buy these antibiotics. How
Yeah.
are they able to procure so much of amount for the?
Veterinary antibiotic is available in huge amounts. Actually, there is a, what is it called? There is a nexus that is there between industry and the pharmaceutical industry and the animal husbandry industry. We don't know whether animal husbandry should be called as an industry, but then this particular sector and our, what is it called, implementation of the laws is very poor. And even though it might be implemented to have them, what is it called, a fine is nothing unless they are imprisoned, and if they are going to be given punishment by the courts, which is going to take decades, it is not going to be solving this particular problem. And corruption, we are all familiar with this. So we really don't know how to solve this, but then this is a very important problem.
Yes, sir, and they have to think about the future. I mean, it's really sad.
Yeah, it is very sad. And what is it called? Science was sort of finding it that it is something really wonderful, that we can increase the weight gain very quickly. We can reduce the time gap so that the farmers can have multiple chicken cycles, broiler chicken cycles within a year. So this was one of the easy or effective ways of increasing the family income. Because the chicken is such a fragile industry that in a chicken farm, even if one bird is going to get an infection, all of them are going to get. So the farmer is ready to spend any amount of money to see to it that he gets a, what is it called, profitable produce. Getting my point? So all these are woven together. There is no easy answer or a solution to this. All of us have to accept that this is a problem. Not accepting and saying that this is not present, nahi hota hai, is where the major problem is. So unless we educate, we tell everybody that this problem is real. ये नहीं है कि ये ऐसे ही है, हवा में नहीं बात कर रहे हैं. Unless people accept it, we are not able, no solution can be found out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Sharda.
Yes, so one small question. I don't know, as a chemist, maybe I don't know how fast these bacteria can mutate. Like you have shown, sir, that serine is replaced by leucine, and then
Yeah.
ultimately it will cause the mutation. So how fast it happens?
See, this particular mutation is being selected. You understand? What we are seeing here is what that has been selected. We have this delta strain. The delta strain we are talking because that has been selected, that is present. There would have been millions of mutations that would have happened in the background, but only the delta strain has got selected. Okay. So for the selection to happen, it would take, let us say, E. coli multiplication time is 20 minutes. Okay. So it will take, let us say, 200 generations. 200 generations can happen in how many minutes? You can just think about it. Let us say 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. So it is being, unless you have this particular, mutations regularly happen. Unless there is a selection, mutations will not be actually be having a problem. So you are exerting a selection pressure by adding this antibiotic in a place where it is not required. Antibiotics have been used by and produced by some of these bacteria so that they can compete better for nutrients. We have used that particular product for our benefit so that we can kill many of the pathogens that are causing harm to us. Now the same product you are using for increasing the weight of chicken or meat, that is something illogical. Just because the farmer is able to get a fast crop and he is able to get a higher income, I really want all farmers to make a lot of income. I'm not against them. I have myself done my BSc in agriculture. I know them. Many of them are poor farmers. Chicken farming is one of the easier ways and better ways of earning a good income. But unfortunately, the mechanisms and the models that we are providing them, we as scientists should find a way out in what way we can improve it. And definitely, if it is going to be done in the right way, we are not going to get a cheap chicken. आज के डेट में चिकन माइट बी अवेलेबल, कितना रुपया किलो में मिलता है शिवानी? Somewhere around
It's 200, 180.
180 to 200. Definitely it is going to be minimum 600 to 800 rupees. So it is going to become more unaffordable. And as the economic status of people increase, people feel that they should be eating more non-vegetarian food. So these has got a lot of societal ramifications. This has got a lot of economic ramifications. It has got a lot of political ramifications. But this is the problem. So, but it is a very serious problem, because if we are not going to recognize this and we are not very serious, we are going to pay a very heavy price. Because we are not going to have antibiotics which are going to be controlling many of these bacteria. And पहले पता है 1920s 1930s में skin infection was the cause for more than 20% of the death. आज के डेट में हम सोच भी नहीं सकते हैं कि स्किन का इन्फेक्शन से लोग मर रहे हैं.